think I would venture to say you got kind of bitten by the jazz historical recording bug. You said, well, listen, we're going to have you come up, and we're going to have local musicians from Vancouver doing the music from various resonance projects. These local musicians will play the music, and then you'll tell about the making of these records. And then, like, we sold like 200 or 300 copies of CDs. People that just packed this club. I was like, wow, that's pretty great. And I don't know, I started talking, you were like, so Zev, what else you got?
Yeah, that's accurate. I mean, I knew about you before that, but when you came to Vancouver, I thought we sort of hooked up as people, you know, as like-minded people. But I remember very specifically when I asked you, what other stuff do you have? You sort of very casually, almost in passing, mentioned something by Cannonball Adderley. I was like, what? Wait, back up. You said, oh, you got these tapes, you know, I got these tapes, but there's this and there's that. And so we didn't really talk much about it, but I never forgot that. You know, you had sent me some other stuff, and I said, what about the Cannonball? Oh, yeah, okay, I'll send it to you, and you check it out. And then some more weeks would pass, and hey, Zev, what about that Cannonball? And then finally you sent it, and then I was obsessed with it ever since.
You know, at Resonance, so we're very fortunate. We have a lot of recordings that come in and out the door sometimes, and you know, I'm often in a position with George Claben where he'll say, you know, listen, we just can't unfortunately put out everything. I will tell you, several years ago, when these recordings came, we were always knocked out by them. And there was also, I remember, some illegal recordings that were coming out at that time too, that were actually being reviewed. And we just felt like, you know, we needed to put this down for a while, and we would come back to it. And George Claben, you know, has been so generous and supportive. You know, he'll say to me sometimes, you know, Zev, I think that we've got a lot on our plate, but why don't you take that one and take it over your friends at this other label or that other label. And this was one of those instances. And not just to say that loosely, but knowing of going to a place where it would have a good home.
It's called 74 Miles Away, Cannonball Adderley.
This was really important music, and it needed to be preserved. And I've had a great pleasure of working with Jim Wilke and Charlie Puzo Jr. now for going on a greater part of 4 to 5 years. And I remember when I first found out about these archives. I mean, the recordings from the Penthouse, from the now defunct KING-FM archives was really an extraordinary thing. Jim was the host of that radio program, A Half Hour of Jazz, and they were really ambassadors bringing jazz to the Pacific Northwest in this period in the 60s.
Well, it sort of comes from the old school of radio broadcasting on, we call them remotes, and we did live broadcasts on location. We had a special line installed between the club, the Penthouse, and the radio station, King FM. And so we could broadcast live simultaneously from the club. People would actually drive around, hear it in their cars, and come on down to the club to catch the second set because they just heard this great music. I ran a backup tape at the studio, mostly for my own instruction. This is how I learned to do live mixing like this, was being on the scene, and then having the tape to review the next day. I could really hear how I could improve.
It was like you said, a very relaxed club. Charlie was a sweetheart, Charlie Puzo. He loved all the guys in the band. He was a hard-nosed guy sometimes, you know, but he loved all the guys in the band, and he loved the music. It was very comfortable. Every time we went to play there, it was a lot of fun, you know, and the band just relaxed and played. You know, they recorded a lot of things that we did there.
I was just in love with Cannonball from the first time I heard him play. You know, it just always brought a joyful feeling. He plays something and it can be so sophisticated for all of us jazz snobs, but at the same time, for the down-home folk, it just feels just right.
Wonderful carnival. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. That's Brazilian.
What struck me about this recording is what happens in between the songs, the introductions to the songs, the outroductions, if you will, of the songs, and the engagement with the audience.
Because I've been thinking a bit about that. It's called There's a Place for Us. Somewhere.
Our illustrious production manager, Zach Shelby-Sisko, who I get the great fortune of working with daily at Resonance, was gracious enough to come along for this journey with us too. He's really become instrumental in Turnkey and all these projects that we've been doing. Talking about our design team is the great Burton Yount, who many of us know from the work on the Resonance Records releases and also from his time at Verve and Blue Note. But Burton Yount has really become one of the great designers of jazz album covers, and having his involvement on this release, I think, greatly helps.
So I realize more so today, I think, than ever, by having Olga here and talking to Roy McCurdy, like, this is very historical, this is very important, and it takes time to get all that stuff together. It's not just an assembly line. Each project is really different, even though they come out, they sort of, you know, there's a concept to how they look and how they feel, but each one is extremely different, and it takes time to do that. You know, it's great. I love it.
He was an incredible bebop player, you know. When I first met Joe, I was playing with Sonny Rollins, and there used to be this guy. I'd see him every night. I was playing at the 5 spot in New York City, and I used to see this guy standing outside of the window looking in all the time, you know. And he had this little tam on, the little French tam and stuff. And one day I went out and I talked to him, and it was Joe, and he had this real broken English. He didn't really speak really a lot of fluent English at that time. But he said, "Oh yeah, man, you guys sound so good, you man. Yeah, I love Sonny," and he loves Sonny, so he would stand outside. Finally, he came in and we'd listen. But that was when we first met him, and I got the chance to hear him later on. I think he was playing with Joe Williams or something like that, and man, he was playing his butt off. Yeah, I think so. He was very quiet. Very quiet guy. During the day, he didn't hang out that much. I guess maybe not when we were on the road, but he would be in his room practicing all the time, you know, just going through books, classical books he used to practice out of all the time. Nat was a fiery, well, like you said, fiery personality. He was a Sagittarius, so his personality was really outgoing all the time. He was like the straw boss of the band. You know, he did all the business stuff for the band, and you know, he paid everybody.
What do you hope people remember when they think of Cannonball and the legacy he left behind with jazz music?
I've been thinking about that. I'm happy that his music is still played and that people still enjoy it and that it means something to people all over the world. You know, I was teaching at Cal State Northridge, and a new faculty member came in and went crazy when he heard that I had been married to Cannonball. He had just come from Japan, and he said that there were jazz clubs with just for him in Japan. Also, I just spent a little time in the hospital, and one of the fellow patients found out that I had been married to Cannonball. He would stop at my door every day hoping that we could have a conversation about it. And finally we did. We met up in rehab where we were both doing exercise, and he questioned me at great length about Julian and how he was and the music. So it's still meaningful to people now.
I think that even, you know, if you have a bunch of Cannonball records in your collection already, or maybe if this is going to be your first purchase, I think this really epitomizes what his music and what this group's music is all about. I think it's even a great place to start.
I think if you take this record to a non-jazz person and they can't like jazz after they hear this, maybe we might as well give up. I mean, it's everything you need in music is there. It doesn't matter what kind of music it is. Everything is there. There's joy, there's groove, it's joyful, but there's also sadness. You need something when you listen to a record. You need something, especially for us. Maybe even more so because we listen to so much music. And when you listen to this recording, you get everything you need, everything. And it's a very satisfying experience. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be putting it out. I mean, we're not doing this because it's a license to print money. We're doing this because we think it's important, and we hope that people get the same feeling from that.
The Sticks. Yeah, the Sticks. I told you. It was a good tune. Just in case, you know what I mean.